All right, a very good morning to you. It's good to see you on this Tuesday, the 23rd day of May. We're actually very quickly saying goodbye to the month of May. And so I hope that you've made better use of the month. Welcome to the show. This is Your World, and my name is Winnie Lubembe. And of course, our conversation today is on childhood arthritis, because if you are like me, we just thought arthritis, some time back, I was mostly associated with like older people, as we age, we're more at risk of the same. But then again, there's something that, is not usually mostly commonly discussed, and this is as far as childhood arthritis is concerned. So that will be the subject of our conversation today, because like we all know, children sometimes complain about aches in their joints, and joint pain in children can be caused by a variety of things. But if a child's joints are swollen for 6 weeks in a row or longer, then they may have a chronic arthritis. So what exactly does juvenile arthritis look like, and what exactly causes it? That is what we'll be finding out on today's conversation. So you want to stick around until the end of the show, because my panel today, of course, the perfect persons to have this conversation. But again, if you know someone, if you know a child, or if you know someone who again is dealing with arthritis and you'd want to share their story, or if you have a question, if you are a caregiver as well, and you have a question or two as far as childhood arthritis is concerned, feel free to send them our way. That is at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on Twitter, and tag me as well at Lubembe_Winnie. But again, our lines are open, so feel free to also give us a call anytime, and let's talk about childhood arthritis. And to help us with that conversation, we have Dr. Angela Migoa, who's a consultant pediatric rheumatologist at Aga Khan University Hospital. So good to have you this morning. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you.
You look lovely. You look very, very lovely this morning. And of course, we also have Lona Karumba, who again, is lived experience with arthritis, and this is childhood arthritis is concerned. You were diagnosed in 2007, right? You were what, 10?
I was, yeah.
Thereabouts.
13.
13. Okay, yeah. All right, not too far off. Asante Sana, first of all, for just braving through and coming here today to share your journey, really, as far as arthritis is concerned. But again, on top of that, you are a psychologist.
Yes.
So it's good to have you this morning. Thank you so much for sparing your time. But Dr. Angela, let's just go back to the basics, right? Childhood arthritis. We don't hear it as often as compared to this other type of arthritis, mostly diagnosed in adults.
Yeah.
So what exactly does that look like? At what age, do we start talking about childhood arthritis?
So Minnie, once again, thanks to you and your team for offering this platform to raise awareness for childhood arthritis.
Most welcome,
And first, I think I want to just celebrate all the lupus warriors and lupus supporters, because this is the month of May. So when it comes to childhood arthritis, let's first appreciate the burden of the problem.
Okay.
According to the WHO report of 2000 to 2019 on death and disability, of the 10 diseases that lead to death and disability, 7 of those 10 are non-communicable diseases.
It's a bit of concern.
It's a big concern, and the musculoskeletal diseases fall in that category. It is estimated that there are 1.71 billion people living with musculoskeletal diseases. Musculoskeletal diseases are the leading cause of disability. It's estimated there are about 528 million people with osteoarthritis, about 54 million people with gout, and we estimate about 7 million children living with arthritis. 30% of those children are in the continent of Africa. And despite that, we only have 2% of the workforce available to cater for these children. And for us, when we talk about children, we're talking about anyone from the age of 0 until 18. Yes. And the youngest child I have seen with arthritis was a 10-week-old baby, just to bring home
context,
yes, that this is not just a disease of the elderly, that our young ones are also being afflicted.
And at what age do we mostly see the onset of the same or diagnosis of of the same? Because like you said, 10 weeks is,
yes,
is the youngest that you've seen?
That's the youngest that I've seen. There's some work we are currently doing together with my colleagues across the continent, trying to describe, you know, what is the spectrum that we are seeing. And maybe we'll talk about it later, but there are different types of arthritis. There's arthritis that just affects 4 or less joints. We call that oligoarticular JIA. And then there's another type that affects many, many joints, okay? That almost looks like what you see in the elderly people known typically as rheumatoid arthritis. We call it polyarticular juvenile idiopathic arthritis. And so far in the data that we have, I mean, it's still work in progress. What we are seeing, our colleagues in Europe and North America, they see the one of children with 4 or less joints, typically in the toddlers, typically in the toddlers and mainly girls. But from the data that we are having so far, in our African context, what seems to be more predominant is the children who are presenting with the spectrum of many more joints, almost like what we see in the elderly people. But there's a disclaimer, because we are doing this study in the hospital setting. So maybe the children who are having 4 or less joints are going to the nearby clinics and they're not reaching us. And so there's the misperception. But in my clinical practice, the children who present with the 4 or less joints, I'm seeing more of the toddlers. Just like what our colleagues in Europe and North America see. And then the older children are the ones who tend to present with the more aggressive disease.
Okay, so just in case maybe someone is coming, very quickly before we go to Lorna, someone who maybe is coming across this term for the very first time and they're thinking, okay, arthritis, what exactly does that look like? Because we're talking about joints, 1 or more, 4 or less, right? But just in case someone is trying to, you know,
understand,
follow the conversation and trying to understand, okay, so arthritis, what exactly does that look like?
So the example I give the little children when they come to see me in clinic, today if I cut myself here, the area where I cut myself would be swollen. Right? It could be hot when you touch, painful, and depending on the color of your skin, it could even be red. Right? That reaction of your body to injury in medicine is what we call inflammation. When that reaction happens in the brain, we call it meningitis. When it happens in the liver, we call it hepatitis. So when that reaction happens in your joints, that is what we call arthritis.
I like that. I like that. Okay, better understanding. Okay, Lorna, let's speak to you. So you were diagnosed with childhood arthritis, like we said, in 2007. You were only 13, right? Would you remember what state you were in before you went to the hospital and got a diagnosis? Like the doctor says she has arthritis, right? Would you remember back before, like the symptoms? How were you? How was it, you know, growing up before you got the diagnosis?
So I really struggled from the age of around 11 because what would happen, I would go for sports. I used to love playing sports, specifically hockey. So whenever I'd go for hockey in the evenings, I'd come with a lot of joint pains. So my parents didn't understand why the joint pains. So of course, as any parent would do, they would take me to the hospital, I'd get injections for pain, and I'd go back home. But then it persisted. So the knees would swell, sometimes I'd get back pains. You know, at that age, they're wondering, okay, what is happening? And though my mom has arthritis, she did not really state it right away that this could be arthritis. I think it took a while for her to actually know, okay, this could be arthritis. So I went to various doctors, various places, but they all said, no, I think she's fine. But one certain doctor, I remember, after now a while of me not going to school, sometimes I would stay home because the pain was too much. One doctor said, I think you should see a rheumatologist. So I went to Aga Khan, and I remember all of us were, what is a rheumatologist? What does she do? What do I need? And so on.
Yeah.
So
big
anyway,
word,
it took big word for a young
11-year-old. Yeah.
So we went, and I think the first time the doctor first stated that there are some tests we'll do. It might take a while.
Okay.
So it took almost close to a year to actually diagnose
before you got
me
that.
with juvenile idiopathic arthritis.
Yeah.
And I remember the confusion in the home, especially for my dad, because my mom understood it a bit, but my dad was not aware at all.
Yeah.
So, and my mom was in remission, so she had not been in pain for a while, she could not even remember how it feels.
Yeah.
And now I'm told you have GIA and we have to start you on meds.
Yeah.
And I wondered, okay, so I remember the first question. I remember a young little girl, I remember asking the doctor, does this thing ever heal? Does it have a cure? And I remember the man was very bold and said, no, it has no cure. So in my young mind, I just thought of, the diseases that we know, diabetes, that time HIV/AIDS was on the rise. Yeah. So I remember just thinking, okay, so I have to stay with this pain for the rest of my life.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so it was quite something.
Yeah. So can we just go back to, because like you said, when you love to play sports, right? And you would come home in a lot of pain at the joints, mostly your knees. Right?
Yeah.
So could you describe that pain? Was it maybe when you were actively, involved in sports, or sometimes it would just come?
So what would happen, I would equate it like with a headache, a burning headache.
Okay.
So it would just come. So I'm seated, maybe in class, we are learning, and I just feel pain in my joints. Sometimes I would not be able to move.
At all.
And I remember even stating it to the teachers, but they're wondering, okay, this is a term, arthritis is a term that is mainly used for adults. So whenever I state I have arthritis, they're like, I thought that was for adults, for wazee,
Yes.
So I remember I would be in a lot of pain, but when I would do sports more often,
the pain would
increase, and it would even cause swelling in the joints, like swelling in my knees, in my ankles, and it would be different times. Today it's the knees, tomorrow it's the ankles, and I remember every morning when I'd wake up, I'd have to first start by stretching my hands, because I'd feel like they're numb, like it's ice, like it can't move. So it was very painful, and I remember a certain point where I would miss school because now I'd wake up with wreathing pain, and my parents would suggest, okay, just stay home, and then we can monitor as time goes by.
Pain. Oh man, I see that. So I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you describe the pain? Because like you're saying, it was intense sometimes it would just come, you'd feel the pain. So on a good day, on a scale of 1 to 10, and on a really bad day?
On a really bad day, I would even put it at 11 out of 10, because sometimes I would literally be wheeled into the hospital like Aga Khan in pain, breathing, and when someone asks, it's like my knees, and they're wondering, knees, people would think headache, stomach ache, the normal pains. But on a good day, maybe 5 or 6, depending on, of course, how it was. But as I grew older, I think I've learned how to manage the pain. So now I know what not to do, how to manage the pain, what to do when I'm in, and I can literally feel like today I'll be in pain, so I know what to do and how to go about it so that it doesn't reach that point.
I see that, and affect like your day-to-day activities. I see that. All right. So Dr. Ari, again, Lena has mentioned a lot of things. Flares would come, and go, and sometimes you would know, but you're about to have a flare. But before we even understand flare, remission, which she's also mentioned. What she's saying, the pain, yes, will be there, and sometimes it will come like in different parts. Sometimes it will be the knees, sometimes it will be the hands, and all those things. So someone might be like, so then what exactly causes, childhood arthritis? And I'm especially concerned because for the 10 weeks baby, I mean, you cannot say that the activities be playing out there and then maybe something happened, right? So what are some of these typical causes for childhood arthritis? And then we'll come back to the flares and remission.
So first is really just to honor and celebrate Lorna
100%,
for sharing her story, the power of storytelling, and thank you for that. Remember in my earlier description, when I was describing what arthritis looks like, and I was explaining how it's a reaction, right, to like an insult or to an injury. And so one of the key tasks for us as rheumatologists, when we receive patients with painful swollen joints, the million-dollar question I'm always asking myself, what has triggered this reaction? What insult to the joint has evoked this response of swelling and pain? Okay. So one of the things that is still top on the list is infections. All right. And you know, in my field as a pediatric rheumatologist, when the children are having coughs and colds, they could come to you because you know their wrist is painful or their knee is swollen. Okay. So that still tops the list. All right. There are other diseases that could masquerade as arthritis. Yeah. And we share a lot of patients with my colleagues who are the experts of the bone marrow. All right. Okay. Because sometimes the primary problem is in the bone marrow, but they're presenting to you with arthritis. Okay. Okay. All right. So if you don't do your due diligence to rule that out, you'll be completely blinded just purely because of the arthritis. And then it's possible that there's no infection, there's no other problem in any other part of the body, and it's just purely in the joint. Yeah? And in that circumstance, like most other diseases, there's often a background genetic risk. And that's one area I think we in the health ecosystem, we have a lot of work to do. Trying to understand what are the genetic risks. I'll tell you, you know, in our country, there are some communities where I see a certain disease much more than others. You know, and I always ask myself the question, is there something genetic in that community that's putting them at risk? So there's often the genetic risk in the background. And we cannot turn a blind eye to the impact of the environment. Right? And when we talk about the environment, think about it in two ways. Your external environment, you know, the air we breathe, the water we drink. I remember there's a cohort of children we were seeing at our institution, and they came from one region and they had similar symptoms. And the guardians and the parents there kept saying that this problem started when this mining industry started operations. But of course, you know, in science, we don't just go on hearsay. We need to prove that. But you can't turn a blind eye to that association. So you think of your external environment. But more importantly also is your internal environment. We forget that the way we've been created, I would say we have got like the good bacteria
and the bad
bacteria. And the good bacteria are the ones, they act as how do you say, like soldiers by the gate to protect the bad bacteria from coming in, right? And the evidence is there, like for diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, for example, that if you change the balance of the good bacteria in the body, you actually put people at risk of diseases like arthritis. And so for us, the issue of judicious use of antibiotics is very important.
The culprits.
Yes, because if we are reckless with how we use antibiotics, for example, we change that internal balance of the good bacteria, putting us at risk of other diseases, not only arthritis.
Not only arthritis, but other diseases. I see that. So just in case someone is sitting in and wondering, okay, we've talked about pain, we've talked about swelling in the joints. What are some of these other symptoms that parents should be really, really on the lookout for? Because like Lorna said, it took a while before she got her actual diagnosis that this is arthritis. She just got pain meds and, you know, and that's it. But what are some of these other symptoms that are very distinct to arthritis, especially in children?
And I think Lorna's story really captures the patient journey for many of the children afflicted with arthritis. And I like some of the things she was saying, that she liked to play, but she couldn't play. she had problems maybe completing her class notes. Yeah. She wasn't able to go to school, you know. So there are certain signs that are rather obvious. You know, when the joint is swollen, you will see. Yeah, it is swollen, you know. Even
many African centers will be beaten because they will assume you're being restless, right? When you're playing and then you don't.
Yeah. You know, so there are some symptoms that are rather obvious.
Yeah, you can see that. Yeah.
But no, let me not say that. I think we need to develop the culture of exercising the power of observation.
Okay.
You know? Yeah. Because if you don't spend time with that child, you will not notice that that ankle is swollen.
True.
You know, so we can say it's obvious, but
really it's not.
Let us develop that culture of exercising the power of observation. And if they are older, like in her case, she'll be able to articulate, and she'll tell you that I'm feeling pain. All right. The challenge comes with the little tiny ones, the toddlers. You know, who they're not even able to verbalize. You know, they're not able to tell you. So what are you going to look for? One is you're going to see, you know, children are very resilient. If a baby is crawling, typically you crawl with your
on your
wrists,
toes,
right? And on your knees.
Yes.
If they're having pain in their wrists, they will find another way to crawl, and you might find them using their elbow. So when you notice those little ones are doing their daily activities in a manner that is against the norm, because children normally don't crawl like this. Okay? Right? Then you have to ask yourself a question as a guardian. Why? All right? Like in the 10-week-old baby I was telling you about, the parents are observant. So they noticed when they placed their baby on the bed, the right leg never moves.
It was stiff.
But the left leg was always moving. So they're wondering, why is that?
What could be the issue?
Yes, what's the issue? Why is that the right leg not moving? And I think another very important point that we should mention is that children with arthritis walk. Even if they struggle, even if they wobble, they're normally very determined that, no, I can be able to do it. The minute you see a child complain of joint pains and they are not able to walk, that is a red flag. You need to run and see what else is happening.
I see that.
There are other subtle signs that come along with childhood arthritis. And Lorna touched on it a little bit. They complain of stiffness in their joints. She said she felt her hands were like ice. I was listening to her. And that typically happens in the morning. And as the day goes on,
somewhat like
its symptoms get better. It's like it gels up. You know, it's not so stiff. So that's a red hallmark sign that stiffness in the morning. The little ones won't tell you they are stiff. You'll just notice they are moody and they are irritable. But then by the time it's around 10 in the morning, midday, they're happy.
Slightly better.
Yes.
Okay. All right. How about we take a break? But of course, when we come back, then we'll also look at some of these other symptoms that we should be wary about. And you also talked about the different types, you know, and then sort of like the number of joints that are mostly affected. It's a lot. It's a lot. We're getting very useful insights this morning as far as childhood arthritis is concerned. So much to discuss right here on your wall. But of course, if you have any other question, like we said, it's very easy. At NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on Twitter is how you can reach us, or our lines are open. Give us a call. If you are a parent watching us this morning and thinking, okay, I have noticed 1 or 2 or 3 of the things that you were talking about, and you want, you know, further sort of like clarification from Daktari as well, feel free to also give us a call. The lines are open and the numbers are down on your screen, but we'll be taking calls after the break. Stay with us. This is your world.
So when the coral is ready to be taken into the ocean, it is actually reef rangers who plant the coral, maintain it, and then do the outplanting as well.
Aye, shauri gani? Kwani wewe abani kuwa na experience ya kupiga simu? Ni siku yako ya kwanza ya kupiga simu. Abani harakisha mimi. Sisi ni watu wanapenda kupeleka bole bole bahali yake. Unafikiria mimi kutoka Wajir kutembea mpaka kuenda Isli mguu na bado nasukuma garmia ni kitu ya dakika mbili. Aye, huwa patient mimi atashika simu. Bani kasirisha mimi. Mimi nakuwaga mtu mbole sana.
To get Waria, dial star 811 star 933 hash. Skiza, Nation.
Around 2 weeks ago, a man expressed interest to rent this place for me for a month for about 3,000 hryvnias. He gave me the money, and that was the last that I saw of him.
Wait a minute.
Unfortunately, lady, I think you were swindled. I'm really sorry.
I don't ever want to be married to a liar, not to mention a criminal. You just ruined my life. I could have been happily married to a decent guy by now. Anna was just driving that day, but she didn't mean to.
Please don't talk to me about that day.
Did something happen at the party? Did you fight?
All right, welcome back. Glad to see you with us. If you're just joining us now, our conversation is on childhood arthritis. And of course, like we said when we started the show, this is a conversation that you don't almost always hear because we focus on arthritis, with, older people, which again, this is like one of the common myths, right? That when you think about arthritis, it should not, the first thought should not be an elderly person. Anybody can be affected by arthritis, but of course, Dr. Angela Migoa, consultant pediatric rheumatologist at Aga Khan University Hospital, is here to give us all the insights, as well as Lona Karumba, who is a psychologist, but also here to share her story as far as childhood arthritis is concerned. We're getting useful insights, and then I'm pretty sure if you're following from when we started the conversation, now you know better as far as childhood arthritis is concerned. And Dr. Before I come to you on the different types of arthritis, you touched on them a little bit.
Yes.
But yeah, I think if we get time, we can also just revisit in case someone is missed out on the same. But Lorna, for you, so it took a while before you got your diagnosis. I'm trying to think, at only 13, that age where you want to look perfect, everything is right, and then the doctor tells you you have arthritis, number one, and number two, you'll have to live with this for the rest of your life. What was the first thought or first reaction?
I thought I would die. That was the first thought. Because I remember when I now asked my mom, how was it, how has it been? And
was hers childhood as well?
Yes, hers was childhood, but hers, it was managed well. But hers was not too, she says she can't really compare with how mine was progressed.
All right.
So I remember the first thought was, oh, now I'm going to be in hospital. And I remember just a week ago, we had gone to see an uncle who had also suffered from arthritis, but also had a lot. His was old age, but he had a lot of other conditions. And I remember seeing him not moving, and the first thought was, "That's how I'll die." So I remember the first thing I remember was me thinking, now I can't be able to play, I can't be able to be myself now. I remember being told, like, I have to see the doctor every month until they kind of, first put the condition at ease first, because at that point now the ESR was very high, everything was just, the inflammation was at a high. So they really had to control the inflammation. And I remember what now made it even worse was the medication that I was being given by the doctor at that time was, the doctor was not giving me something for the acidity. So now I developed chronic gastritis, which now became another thing now to handle. So I remember even as growing up, it was really difficult because the drugs for arthritis used to affect the drugs for gastritis. So at some point it reached where I was admitted, but I was not being given any medication. I'm just there because none of them can agree, okay, what drugs do we give Lorna to help her? Because this one
sort out the two
causing the acidity, this one is now the one that is reacting with the ones for arthritis.
Yeah.
So I remember it was very difficult, but once we sorted at least that out, I was able now to learn how to manage both conditions, because again, acidity is another thing on its own, some other pain of the stomach that is on another high. Yeah. So it was a bit difficult at that point.
And I try to imagine dealing with both, right? And also you said it has also affected your back and your hands as well. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
So as I grew older, so as I was growing up, it was just the knees and the ankles, I remember, and my hands sometimes would be stiff but no pain. So as I grew older, I reached a point where I also kind of gave up, because now it was like gastritis, arthritis. So I now concentrated on the gastritis, and I was able to manage the pain, through painkillers, which was wrong at that point. So now it developed. So it went to the back.
Can we just pick a call and then we'll come back to you, you know, on the same. And we have a caller from Nyandarua. A very good morning to you. Thank you so much for calling us. I don't know if you can hear me. How are you doing?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for calling us this morning. Do you have a question for Daktari or a comment?
I have a question.
Go ahead. And kindly speak up.
Allow me to speak in Swahili.
Okay. All right. Oh, yes. Please go ahead and kindly speak up.
Yes.
Okay.
Niko na msichana. She's 16 years now. Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Continue.
I have a daughter.
Yeah.
She's now 16 years old.
All right.
Last year, I think, she joined Form 1 2021. Now, ikifika like 2 months, that time from the duration aliingia shule, akaanza kuswell the left leg.
Okay.
At the ankle. Akaswell, and that time I realized alikuwa na complain something below the left breast.
Okay.
Now I took her to the hospital for like many hospitals. Ikafika mahali nikaona orthopedic. Akaniambia tuende MRI. That time we went for MRI. Tulikuwa tumeenda mpaka to see a lot of scans, whatever. So venye tulienda ilikuwa ni soft tissues. The MRI ilisema ni soft tissues. But later I don't understand, when akifika place kuna baridi, that's the time ana swell. Akitoka kwa baridi hiyo kitu inaisha.
Okay.
And she still complains that pain upper the lower breast. Lakini tukienda hosi there is nothing. So I'm confused. I don't understand anything. Na sina hiyo uwezo kubwa ati ya kwenda Aga Khan or wherever. So naweza saidiwa kufafanua ama which steps do I go?
Okay, so do you mind just staying on the line so that in case Daktari has a question for you, you know, just to get like a better brief of what exactly is happening. But Daktari, just go ahead.
Edna, shukran sana kwa kupiga simu na kutuelezea shida ya msichana wako. I think lile jambo kuu sasa lingekuwa muhimu kama ungekuwa na nafasi yaonekane na daktari wa watoto, meaning pediatrician. Because unaona sasa miguu ikifura na kuna uchungu, na pia unasema I think kwa sehemu ya kifua pia kuna mahali anasikia uchungu. Itakuwa muhimu daktari wa watoto amwangalie, awahoji, ndio at least ajaribu kuelewa shida ama tatizo liko wapi. And then after that, because we have a community as the pediatricians in this country through the Kenya Pediatric Association, and where we exchange ideas to be able to help our colleagues across the country when they face children who have got these problems, you know, and maybe we can pick this discussion offline. But one thing I have to say, na Edna, shukran sana tena kwa kupiga simu. There's a very disturbing trend I have seen with the high school children. And I was going to mention it as a parting shot, but I'll mention it quickly in passing. Our children in high school, I think because of the pressures, they are sleeping for like 4 or 5 hours. Somebody is going to bed at 11 p.m.
They have to be up by like
and waking up at 4. And I challenge the guardians listening to this show over the weekend when they are not working. try that experiment.
Okay.
Just sleep for 5 hours. I promise you, you will be sick.
That's true.
Everywhere will ache, from the head to the neck to the back to the knees, everywhere, you know. And I think as a society, we need to embrace the power of rest. Right? Yeah. That when you rest, you rejuvenate. That's true. And you're empowered for the next day. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And I'm seeing lots of children from high schools with aches and pains. Yeah. And we investigate, everything is fine, they're not resting enough.
I mean, and it's the same thing Edna is mentioning. I mean, first of all, there's that pressure for one, right? Like going to a high school in itself is just too much, right? And then she says, cold. Like, I think the school where her child is cold. So there's that swelling and pain and all those things. But then when she comes home, and you know, when there's or a place where it's not cold, she's okay. And all the tests are not showing anything.
And that's why I'm saying that the first point would be, let her be reviewed by a pediatrician. Okay. So that we rule out any other systemic disease, any other organs that can be affected that are presenting with the joint pain. It's very important. And remember, if you speak to the experts of pain, they will tell you any stimulus in excess causes pain. Okay. So even now, if you're exposed to excess heat, it can potentially give you pain. Yeah. When you're exposed to excess cold, it can potentially give you pain. Yeah. So for us in the health field, when we hear that, we don't brush it aside, but we don't blame the weather for the problem. Okay. Otherwise, you stop looking. You know, and maybe there are other things that are happening that need to be investigated.
I hear that.
But we know weather changes can make the joint symptoms worse.
I see that. Okay, so Edna, I think if you're watching us, just leave your contact, and then maybe you know you can pick up this conversation after, so that you know she gets you know, the daughter rather gets the help that that she needs. All right, thanks, Doc. But again, keep calling. The lines are open. The numbers are there on your screen, and let's get help to as many people out there. Really, as far as first of all, just understanding arthritis, but also you know any of your concern. Dr. is here for your questions. But yeah, so sorry, Lorna, we were talking about, of course, these two things, right? You're taking painkillers for this other condition, but then again, it's also dealing with this other one. And then now you started experiencing back pain, like we're talking about, and also on your hands. Yes, your back and your hands. So very quickly, just take up from there.
Yeah, so as I grew older, I started developing back pains. And now they became as severe as the knee pains. So I remember even trying exercise, trying so many things, and then I realized that the back is also a joint, so it could still be a function of the arthritis working in the body. So as I've grown older, even right now I'm still seeing the rheumatologist, still going for checkups at least regularly. And I know one of the things that is really affecting me at this point is back pains, and the wrists now have at least for now, the knees, it's like it's something now the body has gotten used to. But now the wrists are, sometimes you pick up something. There was a point where I could not like pick up a glass, because of the pain of the wrists. And as it develops, it starts going to different parts of the body. So actually the doctor also diagnosed fibromyalgia, which is now pain of all, very many parts of the very many joints of the body.
And you can't just pinpoint and say, oh, it's my back. No, it's like literally everywhere. I'm so sorry. That's a lot for one person to really go through. So then how would you say this has impacted? Because again, so diagnosis was done when you were 13, first you were put on meds and all that just to help you manage. And especially we're talking about the pain, right? Like you said. But now, how has it, and even then, you know, from 13 up until now, how has it affected you? Because like you're saying, at some point you could not lift a glass of water. How else has this impacted sort of like your day-to-day activities, in as much as you're sort of like able to manage at some point?
Okay, so first, of course, this happened, the diagnosis happened before I finished my primary school. This was in primary. So high school, I couldn't go to, I was told to avoid the cold. I think she has just stated something about the cold. It has an effect on the pain. So I had to go to a day school because of the management. And I remember I used to miss pretty much a lot of lessons because now today you have an appointment with the doctor for gastritis. Tomorrow you have with the doctor for for arthritis. I also suffer sometimes with tonsillitis, so sometimes I'm seeing an ENT. So you'd find in a week or in a month I'm missing like 3 to 4 lessons. So that was one of the areas that I really struggled with. Secondly, I also struggled a lot with even just keeping up with concentration, because sitting also for a long time used to affect, especially the knee joints, because of the way we sit in class. So I'd find like sometimes I'd miss games, or I'd not, like now hockey for me, high school I only did it I think in Form 1. Then my dad said, okay, reduce this, because it seems all the time you go for hockey it seems to be increasing. So maybe just pause on that a bit, let's work on managing the pain, and then from there, so it has really affected even my school life. And even just, you know, being even an adult right now, you find maybe you're going through your day-to-day activities, and then I feel like, okay, today it's like I'll be in pain, so already I start planning how I'll get off work as fast as possible to go get treatment. Sometimes I'm forced to go and just get, maybe it's late in the night, I can't travel all the way to Aga Khan. Sometimes I'm forced to go to a local clinic where they give me like pain meds like tramadol, diclofenac, just to at least facilitate the pain before now tomorrow I go now to see my doctor.
Hospital. Do you find yourself sometimes like missing work majority of the times because of pain as well?
So sometimes I have to also inform my employer as soon as possible. And also being a counseling psychologist, I sit for a lot of hours. So sometimes that also affects how I progress. Like I'm forced, maybe at some point I take a break, I take a walk, you know, because that sitting down also precipitates the pain even more.
And especially like you're talking about your back as well. Man, I see that. All right, Doc. We talked about flares, right? And Lorna keeps mentioning it, says sometimes I know I am about to get, right? So what exactly do those flares look like?
So a lot of the times when the patients are getting a flare, first, what is even a flare?
Yes.
What is a flare? So, you know, as we started this discussion, we say that your body reacts to insult or injury by a process we call inflammation. And that's the reaction you'd get if you cut yourself or you burnt yourself. And whenever we treat patients with arthritis, what we are trying to do is to tame down that reaction. We're trying to tame it down. And you know, this reaction is primarily carried out by what I call the KDF of the body, you know, the immune system of the body. All right. Now, for example, if you have an infection, the natural thing is that your immune system will be jump-started to protect you from the infection, isn't it? But for somebody who has arthritis, there's a collateral damage now because the immune system has been triggered, has been jump-started. And so that wrist, which was not swollen, which was not painful, all of a sudden becomes swollen and becomes painful. And everyone would panic and say, but I thought we had controlled this disease. So why is this knee still
all of a sudden,
still swelling? But when you understand that when we are treating, what we are doing is trying to tame that reaction, right? And sometimes your body needs that reaction to protect you from other things happening in your body. So most of the time flares would present with the joints becoming painful again, becoming swollen again, becoming stiff again, even though they had initially been well controlled. Yes,
I see that. So then, how does this impact a child? And this is just me thinking. For example, like you're saying, the 10-week you know, baby. Luckily, it was caught early. Assuming it was caught early. How can this impact a child? Because I mean, children, like you're saying, they're very resilient. They want to explore, they want to play, they want to do all these things. So does it at some point affect their growth, you know, in the long run?
So, I mean, Lorna has really captured it very well. You know, when they come to the clinic, fine, I will be worried about maybe the blood level, you know, how is the liver test, kidney test happening. But the child doesn't care about the liver test. If they're riding the bicycle, they want to continue riding their bicycle. They want to be able to dress themselves up without having somebody to button their shirt. they had to go to the bathroom and wash themselves without somebody having to come and scrub them.
Yeah.
She talked about missing school.
A lot of the days.
And you know, this is really the silent burden of the chronic diseases, of non-communicable diseases. Because if you reflect back on what Lorna was saying, all those hospital visits that she has made, there's a sense of stigma that comes with it.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the children in school are wondering, why is Lorna all the time going to hospital?
Even she mentioned just saying to the teachers, I have arthritis. They're like,
and they're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
They don't even want to go closer to her because they're not sure if they come close, if they're going to get that same disease.
Yeah.
Then imagine Lorna's family.
Yeah.
Whether her parents were in business or they're employed, imagine the number of times they had to go to the hospital. That was time lost in earnings for that family.
Yeah.
Earnings lost for the economy of this country. All right?
Yeah.
She talked about missing school. She's clearly a very resilient and determined young lady.
Yeah.
But there are some who along the way would be completely demoralized. And they would not pursue their careers.
Yeah.
So then what does that mean? At the end of the day, they cannot earn an income. That sets you into a vicious cycle of poverty and dependence, another burden to the health system. So the ripple effect is magnanimous from the individual, point of stigma, personal development, having to live with pain, to the immediate community and the family. All right? The stress, the stigma, loss of earnings, and then to the entire health ecosystem, right? Frequent visits, being given medicines that actually don't help, which could have helped another patient. So that is the ripple effect of the burden of arthritis and many other non-communicable diseases.
As well.
Yes.
I mean, and thinking about it that way, we can really see the impact. Because most of the time we just usually focus on the individual, right? And how does this impact you? But then again, thinking about it on a larger scale, the impact is really huge. Can we also very quickly talk about diagnosis before we come to Lorna in terms of then, you know, some of the things that maybe you found yourself sort of like changing, just to make it easier for you to go about your day, be as productive as possible, but also reduce the pain. Maybe prevent the flares if they can be prevented, if there is a way that you can prevent the same. But because you said you'd go to a hospital, you know, they'll just give you pain meds and then that's it until later on. And even before you got your diagnosis, it took like a year before you got your diagnosis. So does this then require like a high index of suspicion, you know, from the healthcare workers? If so, what is that process like? Because we do not want someone to wait for an entire year before they get their diagnosis, right? You've
actually hit the nail on the head. High index of suspicion. And I know I speak beyond reasonable doubt when I say for most rheumatologists, our consults for our new patients rarely takes less than 30 minutes. Because to make a diagnosis of arthritis, there is no one magic test. There is no one magic X-ray to make the diagnosis. The foundation of the diagnosis of arthritis is a thorough history taking, where you exercise the art of listening, listening to the story of the patient. And in this case, because we are pediatricians, the voice of the guardian, the voice of the parents. And remember, I was telling you about arthritis is a painful swollen joint. So as rheumatologists, we examine the over 200 joints you have in your body before I can tell you you have arthritis. We call it palpating. We check each and every joint. Is it swollen? Is it painful? Is it limited in movement? That's how you diagnose arthritis. Not with a whole battery of blood tests or a whole array of X-rays. When we are doing the investigations, most of the time it's to narrow down on the cause. remember I told you, arthritis is just the swelling and pain of the joint. Then you have to ask yourself, what has triggered? All right? Okay. So when we are asking for those investigations, most of the time, what we are looking for is, what is the cause? Okay. All right? And your quest for the cause can only be informed when you listen to the patient. All right. And you examine them thoroughly from head to toe. And I'm saying this because the tragedy is, most of the time, by the time the patients get to us, they have spent so much money on tests that don't add value. And when they come to you, you just need one test, and they can't afford it. They just genuinely cannot afford it.
Yeah, because they've exhausted
other tests. They've exhausted it, you know. So I think it's really important that we keep that in mind. So you're right when you say it, the high index of suspicion is key as you work through how to narrow down on a diagnosis for this patient.
I like that. All right, we literally have to end the wow. Okay. so Lorna, having gone through this, and of course you saw this in your family as well, talked about your mom, talked about your uncle, so can we talk about just very quickly how important then support is? Because now that you've been, you know, with this for a while now, you know when you're about to get a flare, you know some of the things that you can do just to make it easier for you, right? But can you quickly talk about support? Because I can imagine missing school for all those days, sometimes having to miss work for all those days. This can put some extra stress on you, right? So can you just talk about support very quickly as we end the conversation?
I think support is what has helped me in this journey. Support from my parents, support from friends, because sometimes you've been, I think I was admitted a countless number of times. I remember every time I'd call and I'd be like, no, but I was here like a month ago, you don't have to come. And they're like, no, you're coming. So I think the support from friends, support from my family, especially my dad. He was very tough on me growing up, especially on things like medication, water. I never used to like taking water because I used to equate water with the taste of medicine. So he really used to push me and say, you know, if you want to get better, you have to do these things. So the support from family, support even from mom, because mom knew what was happening, so she'd tell me, Lorna, you do too much, rest, it's okay, the work will still be there when you know. And I remember her keeping on telling me that your health comes first, your health is a priority. So support from my family and support also from friends.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Lorna, for coming by today. Powerful story to help as many people out there just understand what childhood arthritis is concerned. Dr. Ari, 30 seconds?
30 seconds, oh my gosh.
I know.
To speak about my pet topic. I think I just want to echo the sentiments of Lorna. We cannot overemphasize the importance and the power of the patient support groups. You know, it doesn't matter even if we had 20 PhDs here. She's the one who knows what it means to walk in the shoes of someone with arthritis. So the patient support groups are a very powerful voice to lobby and advocate for access to diagnostics, access to therapeutics, to lobby even for laws to be able to make these things available to every child, not just in this country but in the region. The other really important thing is the role of our allied healthcare workers. The physiotherapists, the occupational therapists, because if you listen to Lorna, it was not about her low blood level that was the problem. The fact that she couldn't play her hockey, you know, that she couldn't write her school notes. So, you know, according to the WHO 2030 rehabilitation initiative, they say that the rehabilitation services are essential services. And secondly, they should be available to all right? And as we intervene, let's not forget, as much as we focus on the individual, their family and the community, and the entire health ecosystem, so that we work as an integrated force.
I like that. I like that. Thank you very much, Dr. Angela Migoa, consultant pediatric rheumatologist at Aga Khan University Hospital, as well as Lorna Karumba, who is an a psychologist, but also just here largely to just share her story as far as childhood arthritis is concerned. Thank you. Thank you so much to both of you. We do not want, you know, so many Ednas who are watching us this morning saying, I cannot access these services from where I am. We need to have it, you know, across the board. So thank you so much. This has been very insightful. There's so many things that we also need to go through, but again, we'll need to have another conversation of the same. But for now, allow us to say goodbye. My name is Zumi Lubembe. Have yourselves a lovely day ahead, and I'll see you tomorrow morning, same time, same place, right here on Your World. But until then, stay safe. Goodbye.